Yes, I'm going to that city.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where the
streets with gold are laid. Ba-doom, ba-doo, ba-ba-doo. Hi, Desiree Lane. How are you doing, my dear? Apostle Von the Gospel. What are you doing out so early?
of life is blooming.
Woo! Oh yeah, and the roses never fade. And the roses never fade. Here they bloom, but for a season, oh Lord, yeah, and then their beauty is decay. Blessed night to Deborah Ross. Happy birthday to you and your pastor. I am going. Anisha Robertson, Jennifer Burrows, Mika Baptiste. God bless all of you. Oh Lord, when the roses never fade, the roses never fade. Ooh. Good night to Jennifer Burrows. There they bloom, but for a season. Good night to Alicia DGs and Dave Denny. Then Shauna Hudson, Mikhail David. Their beauty is decayed. Oh, yeah. Well, I am going to that city. Where the roses never fade. Loved ones
are gone to be with Jesus.
They're dead. Gone to be with Jesus. Rowena Pitt. Always Tatola. British Virgin Islands are laid.
Now,
Sidney L. Francois. Daddy-o.
they're waiting.
Hallelujah. Glory to God.
Talking about a city.
Oh, and
Where
where
the road
the roses never fade. I told her it's good. I feel like telling you I'll touch down there soon. Here they bloom, but for a season, oh Lord, then their beauty is decayed. Ba-doom, bam, ba-ba-doom. Oh Lord, I am going to that city where the roses never fade. Where the roses never fade. Good night to Angela Jem and Glenda Griffith. These are two Dominionites, two of the best people in the world. Here they bloom, but for a season, oh Lord, then their beauty, then their beauty is decay. Oh yeah, Lord. Maybe I am going to that city. I've already made my reservation, Lord. Where the roses never fade. Minister Alicia Crummy-Wing, mother of Zirai Crummy-Wing. Never, oh my Lord, they never fade. All right. Every now and then I deal with a subject that creates controversy. And there's no subject that is more controversial than the subject of giving. The love of money is the root of all evil. Some having coveted after have pierced themselves through with many sorrows. And many who have coveted after, those are the ones that pierce themselves through with many sorrows. I'm going to begin by asking a question, and I hope that you have the gall, the nerve, the gumption to write your perspective on the screen and send it. The question is, why do you think people have such a difficulty giving? And particularly in this case, giving to church, giving to God's work, giving to ministries, ministers, whatever. Why is it that people have a problem? You feel queasy about giving. I've got in front of me 6 reasons why people are queasy about giving. And I'm sure that by the time I get done with my 6, you would have written your 1. And if your 1 is interesting, I'll dump whatever I'm talking about or cut it short and jump on to your own and take it from there. Somebody already shot the gun. They said, Titan culture. Titan culture. They are cultured to have a Titan. Why is that? Because prices are rising. Salary don't go as fast as prices. You can have a 28% rise when inflation hits, when the prices go up. But you still have the same salary, so you're at a disadvantage. Today here, in this country, the property tax went up by somewhere near 7%. And so you're going to pay a good lot of money more on your property tax. Of course, your property did not expand. It's the same property. And the mayor was giving us a nice explanation that, yeah. You know how we get this political spin. Somebody else said because they are selfish and greedy. They don't believe that's God's word. Why don't they believe this is God's word? I have that down here as an answer to Iambi Cave. And Rowena said the same thing, and I'm going to give a little explanation on that. My number 1 reason is shysters. People used to be giving all the time until they ran into many examples of people that are supposedly of God. But when they did find out it is not so, that these people were just con men parading the Bible, but they themselves didn't believe it. I have preached for organizations that didn't believe the Bible. And I thought they did. I was preaching a storm up for them. And finally, when the rubber hit the road, I found out that these people are not Bible believing. They're just using the scripture as their means of employment, but their hearts are not changed. They are not born again. And when people find out that they're shysters, con men, it's like some not-for-profit organizations that are raising funds for this cause and that cause. And when you do get the report, 90+% of the monies raised goes to themselves. Of course, they have a system of making it look like they're paying this and paying that. When you do get to find out the person they paid is their cousin, over here is their auntie, over there is their brother, over there. And when you ask the brother, auntie, and cousin, they don't know what you're talking about. So in actual fact, the person at the top was paying all of those salaries to themselves. People got tired of giving to causes where the people that raise the funds are nothing but a bunch of crooks themselves. And so they quit giving. They were conned by people who pretended to be people of God. And they got hurt and disappointed by it, and they decided, even if the cause is legitimate now, I am not giving because I have been burned, and where it concerns that subject of giving, they are now forever the victim. Forever the victim is a sickness that afflicts some people who get hurt, and they never get over it. They always mention that as the reason why they are the way they are, and they will remain that way. Shysters. Some preachers have even been put in prison for milking the system and going outside of the realms of law. They did some unlawful deeds and got caught and got jailed, even though they had the name Reverend. Shysters are one of the reasons people don't give to God's cause, to God's church. They got milked by con men who use Bible. Number two, this is one of the ones that I found was the greatest reason why people don't give. And it surprised me. I was shocked. The fear of not having enough. These are not people who are greedy. These are people who are fearful. They're afraid of poverty biting them. And so they hold and hoard all that comes into their hands. They don't let it go for any reason, legitimate or not. They're afraid of not having enough. They're afraid if they give, that's minus. They don't consider it as sowing. They consider it as, you ever heard people say, I give away the shirt. I give away the pants. I give away the money. I give away the toys. I give away the clothes. Away as in, it's not ever coming back to me. But over the years, you know what I've learned? The things that I give are the things that come back to me. I'm looking right now at a black bag in my bedroom on the floor. Inside of it is a pair of brand new shoes, my size leather shoes. I wore it one time. Where did that come from? Somebody gave it to me. This jacket I have on right now, somebody gave it to me. Yes, they did. They say, I hope it's your size. I said, I hope so too. I put it on and I made it look nice. I said, that's just the right size. But some people are afraid that they are not going to have enough, especially when they have children. They are, no, man. I can't do that. If I do that, I will have less. I will have less. They don't see it as somebody will be blessed, and God, who said, I will give back to you, men shall give back into your bosom, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. God will challenge men. Not all of them will answer the challenge, but some of them will. And the few that do, they do it with a sense of joy, and they know they are responding to the voice of God that's on the inside telling them, do that, and I'll show you a reward the likes of which you never would have in man's system. Most people don't give because of shysters. The second reason people don't give is because they are afraid that they themselves, after they give, they will not have enough. And they're worried because they've had some see-nothing days. They're worried because they've had days when they didn't know where the next meal was coming from. They're worried because they know that there were days they didn't know where the pair of shoes was coming from. They know that there were days when they didn't know how the children were going to eat. They know that there were days the children are growing out of their clothes and they don't know where the clothes is going to come from. They know that there were days when they got frustrated with having to not to worry about what are we going to cook tomorrow? Or sometimes even worse, what are we going to cook today? And so they are afraid of not having enough. Let me tell you something. Until you get past that fear of not having enough, you will always not have enough, because the principle of life, the way it operates is, the thing that you greatly fear will continue to happen to you. As long as you fear it, it will attract itself to you. Have you noticed that if you're afraid of dogs, everywhere you go, there's a dog walking not far from you? The moment you get to be a friend of dogs, and you're not afraid of dogs anymore, you don't see dogs that much. Now you see rats. And if you're afraid of rats, they keep being attracted to you. The fear of not having enough. And fear is a tormenting power. Fear has torment. And of course, every time if you're in church and you see that offering, whatever, pass around, you get a disease called ophacoma. Whenever it's time to pick up an offering, you fall in a coma until the offering is done. Then you catch yourself. So some people are afflicted with a disease called ophacoma. They go into a coma when it's time to give because they're afraid of not having enough. They're afraid of their children not having enough. They're afraid they wouldn't have anything new to wear. They're afraid that they'll be embarrassed by poverty and hunger. And so they don't give because they're afraid. That brings me to my third reason. Good night, Alison McKenzie. Good night to you. The third reason I have here why people don't give is because they don't trust anyone with money. Only they know how to use it. There are people like that. I know of one person that popped in my brain as soon as I said it. They have this thing that they are the only one in the world who knows what to do with money, who knows how to spend it, who knows how to dispense it, who knows how it should be spent. And they have a strong distrust. Some people get a sickness called look-away-itis. I never heard of that one. I'm going to have to get my doctor to prescribe the cure. They don't trust anyone with money because when they look around them, they notice that the people in authority have a tendency of spending wildly. I saw a bright individual put tons and tons and tons of a machine in land that was swampy. Of course, the dollar foundation in the swamp made it, concretize the foundation, smart people, put the machinery on top of the foundation in the swamp, and 2-3 weeks later, it was noticed that the swamp, that the machine had been sinking and was sinking, and after they had put billions with a B into this machine on that swampy land, they had to abandon the project and leave everything in there to sink to the bottom of the swamp. And the taxpayers were annoyed, upset, offended. They went absolutely berserk. And that person was never challenged or never had to repay that money. And so there are people who don't trust anyone with money, especially when they have to put a $2 in there, because they believe only they know how to use it. Only they know how to spend it. That they are an expert on financial matters and nobody else in the world is an expert but them. And so they don't give to any cause for any reason at any time in any way, shape, or form. Giving to them is like pulling teeth. They're sitting in a dentist's chair right now. And the dentist has these buzzing machines that is hovering around their delicate teeth. And they are scared out of their wits to trust the dentist. When he says, say ah, they're not saying no ah. There are people that don't trust anyone with money. And as long as the money comes to somebody else's hand, they'll find a reason to make that person a criminal. Oh, they got to be stealing some of that stuff. There's no way they can have have a $20 pass through their hands and not steal 10, because that's what they would have done. They would have stolen 10. People don't give because of shysters. People don't give because they have a fear of not having enough. People don't give because they don't trust anyone else with money. Only they know how to spend it, how to use it. Number 4, people don't give because they don't see why they should support God's work. And they say God has streets of gold. And God has a city made of gold. And the cattle on 1,000 hills belong to God. Why should I support his work on earth? Because he's rich already. Why should I support what the church is doing in the name of God? Why should I support that? How do I know that that church is really from God or doing God's work? I don't know. And all of a sudden, an intelligent individual who can decipher and figure out things, they go absolutely brainless. They say, I don't support because I don't see why I should. I don't see why I should. I'm going to leave it alone. Reason number 5. There is no biblical teaching on the subject, so there is no knowledge. And when there is no knowledge, people don't have faith to respond to something they don't know. There's no teaching, no biblical teaching on the subject. All around the world, whenever I'm going to take up an offering for any cause, I read a scripture or two, or I quote a scripture or two, tell them where to find it, and then I do a small teaching on the subject. Why? Because I want their faith to be based on the word of God and not on the wisdom of man. People can't have faith for something that they are not taught about. Faith comes by hearing, and so they've got to hear it. You may have heard it, you get fed up hearing it, but somebody didn't hear it, so we got to repeat ourselves. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And so it becomes necessary to teach on the subject of what? Of giving. But you said it's an offensive subject. Yes. You said it's a controversial subject. Yes. There are a few subjects that I get a lot of flax on. And one of them that I get a lot of flax on is the subject of giving. I did a subject on soul ties, and it was like putting your hand in a hornet's nest. I never thought people would be that acidic against that teaching, but I braved through it. And then, of course, I did Kingdom First, and y'all know what happened with that one. 7 years disappeared to the glory of God. There's no teaching on the subject, so there is no understanding on the subject. There's no teaching on the subject, so there is no faith. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing, and hearing by the word of God. What does that word hearing mean? Hearing is used in a continuous tense, meaning to hear and hear and hear and hear and hear and hear. Again, 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 and again. It's a subject that every subject has to be repeated. People don't get it the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 50th time. Some people needed to hear it 101 times before they finally begin to see the light. Giving is an offense to the kingdom of darkness. Anything that supports God's work angers the demonic world. That's why some people are angry, because they are working with that world, and they don't see any reason why the opposition, meaning God, should get a pass or get assistance or get help or get aid. Anyone who's not supporting the work of God is supporting the work of his adversary. Oh, Jesus said it this way: if you are not with me, you are against me. If you are not gathering with me, you are scattering from me. He that is not with me is against me. There's no biblical teaching on the subject. And sometimes, even when biblical teaching is done, it is done in a self-serving manner. It is not done in a balanced biblical context. It's done in a self-serving manner. The church has a project that they want to do, and so that's the only time they talk about that subject. And that shouldn't be. You should talk about it even when you have no project to do. And then, here's a kicker. People think you're lying because They don't see how 90% can do more than 100%. They don't see how 90% can do more than 100%. I have a testimony. You may have heard it before, but this is my testimony. And I told God, if he did this thing for me, I was going to talk about it until people get fed up. They haven't gotten fed up yet, so I've got some talking to do. I had in my hand, that belonged to me at the time, $250,000. It was my personal cash. At the time, a young minister was buying a building to host his services because his church had grown to the extent where the building couldn't hold him anymore. I heard about him making this deal to buy this building, and I said, all right, I'm going to close this account and give all of the monies to him. And I did. And he said, are you sure you want to give me? I said, yes, I'm sure. I don't want you to talk to me about this subject again. This is a closed matter. God spoke to me to close this account and give this money to you. He said, all right. He took the money and he said again, you sure? I said, yes. He went his merry way. About 2 weeks later, he came back. He had the money. And he said, the leader of our organization is not interested in me purchasing this building. And he gave me some reasons why he could not go ahead with the deal, because he did not have the final say in buying property. And so he said, since we are not going to be buying the property anymore, I'm giving your money back to you. And he did it with a lot of relief. So I took the money back from him. And as I'm going into the home, I'm asking God, why did you ask me to give this guy this money, knowing fully well that this is how it will end up? And I didn't hear any audible voice, but I had this strong impression that this was what was being said. I was testing you to see if you would obey me in matters of real estate. What I didn't tell you was, at the same time, I was praying to move from the church premises into my own home, because the church premises, when the service was done, I was living on the church premises, and people will drop by for a cold drink of water, a hot cup of tea, and 2 months later, they were still there. At the house. They just didn't go back home. And so it was beginning to pluck my last nerve. But of course, a lot of times the circumstances demanded that they stay put. And they were going to explain later on, and we were going to find out that it was the right thing to do. But when you're not expecting, then it kind of throws you in a loop. Anyhow, I prayed, I said, God, I want a house. I want it at least a mile away from the church. Now, guess what? In that country, a mile is a long distance. Some people would groan, what? You live far. These days, I drive for 50 miles, and it's no big deal. It's just another day at the office. Here in North America, the country is so big that sometimes it takes 2 hours to get to where you're going, driving at 100 kilometers an hour. And when I go back to that country and they talk about far, I just don't even bother with them, because they have no idea what they're talking about. Far? You haven't seen far. Far? So I was praying concerning that. I want a house a mile away from here. And that's the time when I gave this gentleman this $250,000. After I got that money back, I put it back in the bank in another account, and there was a knock on the door, 5 o'clock one morning. I went up there, there's a gentleman standing there. And he said, I met you at so-and-so church. And for the last 2 weeks, the Lord has been speaking to me concerning you. I'm looking at him with bloodshot eyes because I just got up. And I'm wondering if this man has lost his mind. But he looked like a well put together gentleman. He said, for the last 2 weeks, I've been wondering about you. Are you in the market for a house? But when he said house, my antennas, my spider senses were tingling. I said, yes. Who told you? He said, God. He said, would you mind coming with me now to see a house that I have for sale? I said, all right, give me a minute. I went in quickly and brushed my teeth as fast as I could, put on the necessaries, and I closed the door very quietly because my wife was still asleep. And I went to see this house. Number one, it was brand new. Number two, it was big. Number three, it was brand new. Did I say it was brand new? It was solidly built. And he started opening doors. It had burglar bars everywhere. Every window had a bar, burglar bars. Every door had a door, and a door made of steel rods, well welded together. And he said, I built it for my son, but he doesn't want to live here anymore. He wants to go in the foreign country to live. And so I'm going to be going to that country myself to see that my kids settle in. And I'm going to sell you this house if you want to buy it. So I walked through the house. I like what I was feeling. The house was made with a wood called purple wood, purple heart, and another wood called green heart. Green heart is the hardest, toughest wood on the planet. You could put that wood for 120 years in the sea, and the sea couldn't make it decay. It's that good a wood. And the yard was raised higher than every other yard, so everybody else could get flood, but that yard could not be flooded because it was built up real high. And then the concrete where the car would drive in, everything was set. You could tell he put a lot of effort into this house for his son. And I asked him the $64 million question. How much do you want for this house? And he said, don't worry. When he said, don't worry, then is when I started worrying. I started worrying real bad now. So this guy going to hit me with a price that I can't afford. And then he took me to his lawyer. I'm sitting there, the two of us looking at it. He's smiling because he has a plan in mind. I didn't know what his plan was. The lawyer said, all right, what's your name, sir? I gave him my name. He scribbled it. How do you spell it, sir? He scribbled it. He said, what are we talking about here? How much are you selling this house for? And the man told the lawyer the figure that he was selling the house for. And the lawyer dropped his pen and slammed his hand on his desk. And he asked the guy, have you lost your mind? And then the lawyer said to him, this is what you paid for the material to build this house. Not even the land, just the material to build this house. Then you had to pay men to build it. Then you had to paint it and all the rest of it. Have you lost your mind? And he slammed his hand down a second time. And the man said, no, I haven't lost my mind. That's the price I'm going to sell it to him for. While we are in this conversation, another gentleman comes in and he says, the house, because he had talked to a couple of people. And the man said, the house that you have, and he named the place where the house was. It was the same house. He said, I got the money to pay you for the house. And what he had in a little suitcase, briefcase, tattoo case was 4 times what he was asking me to pay for the house. They hadn't set this thing up. And the lawyer said, now we're talking. So he sat down, the lawyer, thinking that the man would take the 4 times more money than what he was calling for the house. And the man said, no. The Lord spoke to me to sell this house to this man for this price. And I'm not backing out from what the Lord spoke to me to do. And the lawyer started calling it, oh, you always with this Lord, the Lord always telling you something. This is stupid. And he actually nearly didn't want to make up the papers and get things going. The lawyer. The man said, no, this is what I'm going to sell it to him for. You're my lawyer. And you draw the papers, and we're going to give him this house. So the lawyer said, all right, sir, do you have this amount of money? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I said, no. He said, all right, well, let's take the money from this guy who has the money. He said, no, sir, you can go. I don't want him to be around here with the money to tempt this lawyer because he's going to get his percentage off of that, you know. And he is feeling it now. He sees money in front of him. He's sweating like a pig in a butcher shop. He wants the man to buy it because he wants his cut. He wants his lawyer's fee. He wants his percent. He's looking at his commission. That's right. So the man scratches his head, folds the thing, locks it up, and he's looking at me. He's looking at the guy who's selling the house, and he's thinking, this guy has lost his mind. What's going on here? I have cash here, and this guy is not even bothering with me. He's bothering with a man who doesn't have enough money to buy this house. He takes out his phone, the seller of the house, and he calls the person. He said, this person is a loan officer at the bank. So he's on the phone. I don't know who he's talking to. He says, hello, hi, this is, and he calls his name. He says, I'm sending Mr. Esse-boom to you tomorrow. What time does the bank open? 8 o'clock. I'm sending Mr. Esse-boom to you, let's say 5 minutes past 8. I want you to give him a loan for X amount. He's buying my house. And the person on the other side, I don't know what they said, but obviously it was yes. The next day at 8 o'clock, I was there at the bank. Luckily for me, I had an account at the bank. So the man asked me first, do you have an account with our bank? And I said, yes. He smiled. He said, all right, have a seat. He had in front of him 2 piles of application forms with people who are going to apply for loans to buy whatever, businesses, whatever. 2 high, about 8 inches by 6 inches on each side. And he wrote my name down, and he said, all right, I will call you. The next day my phone rang. It was the loan officer. What he did was when he finished with my application, he put it at the top. At the top of all the applications. And he saw to it that my application went through and I got the loan. And then I went home and I told my wife, I said, we bought a house. She said, where? And then when I told her where, she said, with what? Oh boy, oh boy. So I told her what happened. And she said, okay, let's go see this house. Let's go see this house that you paid so much for. And we went because he had already given me the keys. The first day I went to see the house, he said, these are the keys to your house. He was prophesying and he didn't know it. I wasn't going to turn down his good prophecy. I said, be it unto me as thou hast declared. So, words to that effect. So my wife opened the front door and she walked up the stairs. She looked at the nice sprawling hall. She went into the washroom. It was set up there. The washroom was almost the size of a small bedroom with all kinds of everything in there. She came out. It looked like she was smiling. She went into the bedroom. She came out. She was smiling now. She went into another bedroom and another. She was smiling now. And then she looked at the windows and she's telling me, she said, you know, over here we can put this color of drapes and over there we can put that color of drapes. And when the two come together, we can put a rug on the floor down. And she was decorating the house. And I was saying, yeah, that's true, that's right. And when she got home, she called her sister and told her sister what a wonderful house she had bought and how the drapes are going to look fantastic in her new house. Oh boy. And we became the rightful owner of a property we had no money nor credit to buy. That's not enough. So when I was going to get this loan, the owner of the house, he came with me and he said, look, how much does the bank want monthly to repay this mortgage, this loan? So I asked the guy, he said, all right, this is the amount you're going to have to pay every month. So immediately I started to worry again. Where am I going to get that kind of money to pay that kind of repayment for the loan? He said, don't worry. The owner of the building is telling me, don't worry, because on the lower level, because we just went up on the upper level, we didn't go on the downstairs. He said, I got 3 apartments, 2 one-bedroom apartments and 1 two-bedroom apartment on the downstairs. I said, what? He said, yes. So don't worry. And he picked up his phone and he called. He said, hey, buddy, remember that house that you came to see? You told me you wanted to rent the 1-bedroom apartment. He said, yeah. He said, it's available. And he told the guy what amount of money he, the new tenant, was going to pay per month. He said, can you handle that? The man said, yes. He said, all right, that's 1. He said, you want me to call somebody else? I said, no. Let me handle this as the new landlord. I've got to vet my tenants. What a mighty God we serve, man. And I got 2 other tenants to rent the lower level. The tenant's rent was more than the monthly payment on the house. So I don't have to pay anything out of my pocket. Are you listening to me? I don't have to pay anything out of my pocket because the tenant's rent will pay for the property and still have some little extra, not too much, but a little extra to do repairs whenever that comes along. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly, above all we can ask or think, according to his power that works in us. That's not a story plucked out of the air. That happened to me. That happened to me. All I can say to that, to God be all the glory. How am I going to take credit and talk about what a genius I am? But guess what? People heard that this preacher bought this house. And after that, people were looking at me like I was a well-off multi-millionaire who could afford to buy this house. And they knew the guy. He was a businessman in the city, well-known. And I bought his house, and so I have to be some very rich man. I got some respect after that. People were looking at me and smiling, pointing at me and, hi, sir, hi, sir. He raised up the poor from the dunghill and given them a place among the princes of the earth. God can do that. In their minds, I had moved from dollar to millionaire. You got that right. God is able to do it for you. How do you give away 10% and the 90% does more? Here's a man with money in hand to pay 4 times what I'm paying, and the guy says no. Who turns down money? That guy did. Oh, people like that don't exist. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. May the price be low when you are buying, and may the price be high when you are selling. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. May God astonish you with his ability to make less do more. I didn't need more money. I needed more favor from the Lord. I needed favor with the guy who is selling me the house. Glory to God. God is able to do just what he said he will do. He is going to take care of every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able, he's able. God is able to do just what he said he will do. He is gonna take care of every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Oh, oh, he's able. Oh, he's able. Yes. 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 I don't know who I'm talking to right now. I know some of you that are on here, but lots of people watch, they don't see anything because they're afraid their pastor will see them on the program and tell them to stop watching him. But the same God who does for one, he has no partiality. There is no partiality with God. He doesn't have favorite children. What he's done for others, he'll do for you. With his arms wide open, he'll pardon you. It is no secret what God can do. You don't let anyone make you disbelieve God's ability and God's credibility. For some of you, before 2023 comes to an end, you will move out of that rented place into your own. You will turn the key to a building that you own to the glory of God. Now listen, the principle is this. You can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. You can't duplicate what you have not experienced. My point is, I have experienced favor in the area of property. Therefore, I have the authority of heaven to speak favor with regard to property in the lives of people. You can't give what you don't have. Well, on the other side of that coin is you can give what you have. What have I got? I've got favor from God in the area of property. People, the deals that are made always seem to work out in my best interest. Not because I'm some mogul, but because I have a God who owns everything, including the cattle on 1,000 hills, the potato, the banana, the yam, everything that grows in the soil. It's his. It belongs to him. And ever so often he reaches out his almighty hand to show himself strong in the behalf of them that trust in him. Yes. And he will sometimes give you a story that has his name on it, his stamp on it, and his glory on it. Who sells a house for less than it's worth? For just the price of the material? Who does that? Nobody. But God is able to do for you what nobody else can do. And so, to the question of how can 90% do more than 100%? When God gets ready to work on that 90%, he will show you his greatness. He will show you his glory. He will show you his majesty. He will show you his eminence. He will show you his preeminence. He will show you his almightiness. He will show you that he can take less and do more. Can 5 loaves and 2 fishes feed a multitude of 5,000? Or watch God work on that. Can ordinary water be turned into vintage wine to the extent that those who drank the wine said this is the best wine that has left for the last? You watch God work on that. Can the fish caught with a hook have the taxes in his mouth for Jesus and for Peter? God is able to do that. Come on, come on, come on. Can a raven, a carrion crow, bring fresh bread and fresh meat for the prophet Elijah? Rocka shaka. When God gets ready to work, it does not take God long. He can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, according to his supernatural power that works in our behalf. His power always goes to work in our behalf. Oh, glory to God. I don't know who you are and I don't know where you are. But what I do know is the ability of God is demonstrated in his creation. Watch him fling the moon. Watch him scatter the stars. Watch him put the sun and tell the sun, shine until I say. And tell the moon, reflect until I say. And tell the stars, twinkle until I say. And set up the firmament above the waters. Yes, yes. What did God create the earth and separate the waters from the land and put fish and all kinds of living creatures in the sea and the oceans and put the grass and the herbs and the fruit trees and vegetables and everything else on land and sustains it by the might of his power. The ability of God is seen in creation, what he made. The ability of God is also seen in his sustaining power. When I came here to North America, I bought a van. I took it to a company that told me, we will spray this van and make it rust proof. And for a fabulous small fee of X amount, you don't have to come back to us ever again. You will never see rust on this van. So I thought I was making a deal. I left the van with them, went home. When they were done, they called me back. About a year and a half later, I saw signs of rust on the van. I took it back to the company. And I said, you told me, based on this piece of warranty here, that this van would never rust again. And I must come back to you if something goes wrong. Well, something went wrong. The van is rusting. They said, what? The van is rusting? And I said, yeah. They said, how long ago was that? And I told them. They said, you expect this thing to not have rust after that length of time? I said, I thought you rust-proof the van. They said, yes, we rust-proof the van. But you don't think it must get rust? It must get rust. So what does rust-proof mean? What does rust-proof mean? And, with shame, and they bow their head, but they refuse to do a second job. That's man and his system. Rust-proof doesn't mean rust-proof. It means it'll get rusty after a year. They can't sustain their promise. They can't maintain integrity with their promise. But God can. Since he put the sun there, it never took a day off. Of course, we have eclipses of the sun and stuff like that, but that's normal. The point is, A, God is able to create, and B, God is able to sustain his creation and keep it doing what he put it there to do until he says stop. And it's not going to stop until he says so. He has ability to create and he has ability to sustain. The ability of God is seen in history, all through history. The record shows that when people's backs are against the wall and they call upon the Lord, I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I will call upon the Lord. He is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemy. The Lord liveth, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. The ability of God is seen in history, where people who should have lost won, where people who should have been defeated got victory. He, God, is able to snatch defeat and throw it away and give you victory when you should have lost. All through history, there are testimonies of people and nations who should have lost major wars, but in 6 days they overcame the impossible odds and beat off nations that surrounded them, and they testified. There were times when we couldn't do it. All of a sudden, a wind came and blew sand into our enemies' eyes. They couldn't see where they were going. They turned their war tanks and started shooting at each other. And by the time the fight was finished and the dust cleared, all we had to do was go and get the tanks that weren't destroyed. We got free weapons from enemies that fled in terror. And later on, the enemies told us they saw men 10, 12, 15 feet tall with shining, flaming swords, and they got scared and ran for their life. Who does that? God. His angelic host came along. God blew with a wind, puff, 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 puff. And he blew just enough. How did Moses cross the Red Sea? How did Moses cross the Red Sea? How did Moses cross the Red Sea? How did he get across? And then the answer came, God blew with a wind, puff, 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 and he blew just enough, 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 enough. And through dry land they walked along. That's how they got across. Yeah, God can blow with a wind. Another time they're trapped in the desert, nowhere to go. Their wheels, the wheels of their trucks, the wheels of their weapons of war are stuck. It's getting into the sand and it can't go anywhere. And suddenly an idea struck them. Let down the air from the wheels so that the tires will be almost flat, but it has enough air to run on the sand. And they did that and were able to come behind their enemies and trap them in an ambush. When they should be stuck in the sand, they were still able to move because they let the air out. Who gave ideas like that? Creative ideas like that? God. And give them victory when they should have lost again and again. We have seen the story of the underdog. People that we knew. How could Buster beat Iron Mike? No, canoe. In our country, we say canoe never bore punt. The canoe is a wooden vessel that moves on the water that is dug out from the trees. The punt is made of steel. Wood cannot penetrate steel, and yet it happens all through history. David kills Goliath all through history. The ability of God is seen in creation. The ability of God is seen in his ability to sustain. And the ability of God is seen in history. Well, let's not talk about that, all right? The ability of God is seen in you. Who changed your life? From a fussing, cussing, lying, evil, mean as a junkyard dog. Now your heart is soft as sponge to the point that people take advantage of you. You know how your heart got changed. If any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. He's a species of being that never existed before. All things are passed away. And behold, all things have become new. Who changed your life? You got to admit, it wasn't you. You tried all kinds of stuff and it didn't work. But when Jesus came in, one sat alone, close by the wayside begging. His eyes were blind, the light he could not see. He clutched his rags and shivered in the shadows. Then Jesus came, and he bid the darkness flee. When Jesus comes, the tempter's power is broken. When Jesus comes, all tears are wiped away. He'll take the gloom and fill your life with glory, and all will change when Jesus comes to stay into my heart. Come into my heart. Come into my heart, Lord Jesus. Come in today. Come in to stay. Come into my heart, Lord Jesus. Oh, what a change. Oh, what a change. Oh, what a change in my life. Oh, what a change. Oh, what a change. Oh, what a change in my life. What? Jesus on the inside, working on the outside, brought about a change in my life. Jesus on the inside, working on the outside. Oh, what a change in my life. Who needs a change? Yeah. You need a change? Yeah. I need a change in my life. Jesus on the inside, he's working on the outside. He brought about a change in our lives. He's a life changer. He's a rearranger. He's a dead man raiser. He's a multiplier. Are you feeling the feeling? Are you getting the symptoms? God can take less and do more. So I know that when you are asked in a church setting, in particular to give, number one that comes to mind, the shyster, the con man. Number two, the fear of not having enough. I'm talking to somebody right now. You're so scared. You are mean because of fear. You don't give away nothing. You're tight and you're proud of your tightness. And you boast to other people, I don't give away nothing. And you think that's something to talk about. But you don't notice that if it wasn't for the grace of God, nothing would come into your hands either. Have you noticed that since you started giving a little away, more has come to you than any time before? People are generous to you. You walk into blessings that make you cry. You literally burst into tears when you go to your house. You say, I didn't know they would do this to me, and they did it with no strings attached. Why? That's just the nature of God, to touch people, to be a blessing. As you release, he causes men to give into your bosom. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. There it was, I was giving a little bit to help this guy, and he had way more to go than that little pittance that I was putting in his hand. And here comes God, and he does for me what I could not do for myself, and helps me out to the very end, and leaves me debt-free, and lifting my hands in praise and honor to his great name. For those of you that don't trust anyone because you think you are the money genius, nobody else must have any money but you. Nobody else must be given it. You don't trust anybody. You don't see why they should support the work of God. You don't see why the work of God needs your support. You sit and listen to good teaching, good preaching. You never send a dime to help anybody in doing what they're doing. You don't care. You just like to eat and not pay the restaurant that you eat from. I'm not getting no help right now, but I know I'm preaching good. It's tight, but it's right. It's tight, but it's right. It's tight, but it's right. Yeah. There's no teaching, no biblical teaching on the subject as to why you should support the work of God. And finally, for those of you, you don't see how 90% in God's hand can do more than 100% in your hand. Because when you give that tenth, that tithe, you're saying, God, all right, it's now in your hands. Let me see what you can do with 90. And God always does more with 90 than you can do with 100. Because you can't outmaneuver God. There are people that are watching right now. You need to be saved. You need to be born again. You will not get these favors and being placed in advantageous position with your current lifestyle. You're getting soft on God and hard on the world and its ways of doing things. You're sliding away. Your prayer life is gone. Your company of questionable characters has multiplied. You haven't been in church for the longest while, and you're making all kinds of excuses why you can't be there, but you're everywhere else. I can't go to church because I'm afraid of COVID. There am I in a plane flying all over the world. I'm not afraid of COVID then. Come on, y'all, stop with the excuses and give God his due. I'm going to pray the sinner's prayer, and some of you need to pray this prayer with me as I pray. Say with me, Lord, I come to you today. I come in the name of Jesus. I'm here to repent. I ask you to forgive my sins. and wash me in the blood of your Son, Jesus Christ. Write my name in the Lamb's book of life and give me the strength and power I need to live for you from this moment on. Remove my name and place it in the book of life where it will never be erased. Forgive me, O God, of falling short of your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. I repent of my sins. I admit that I've gone contrary to the word of God, and I ask for your forgiveness. Be merciful unto me, O God. In Jesus' name, amen. I just felt a strong urge. It was during one of the choruses that I was singing. Oh, what a change in my life. That a lot of times people need to be challenged to make a commitment to God. Because a lot of the things we talk about, I talk about, you can't enter into them with a relationship with God that is not there at all. You may have a relationship with church, but a relationship with church is certainly not a relationship with God. A donkey in a garage doesn't make it a Mercedes-Benz. Come on now. The boom is out.